Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be showing you how I made this beautiful corset bustier with an already made wrap up. Straight onto it. Here is what I did. I folded my fabric first into two, and because the edges of my fabric are not aligned, so I had to make a starting line. As you all know, a bustier doesn't have a shoulder. So from there, I removed 6 inches from the shoulder, making use of the first line I marked there as my chest line. From there, I marked my bust point, my under bust, and the full length of my bustier. Then I drew a straight line across them. Now the next thing I did was to place my bust circumference on the bust point. The measurement of my bust I divided into 4, added 2 inches allowance. Then I also did the same for my under bust circumference, added 2 inches allowance, repeated the same thing for the full length. I divided my waist circumference into 4 and added 2 inches allowance, and I connected this point. So I went ahead to mark ½ inch from the folded part of my fabric down. I marked it down to the under bust. This is because I don't really like too much spacing between my cups, so I had to mark ½ inch there. Now the next thing you do is to place your bra cups. Please don't be confused. This bra cups has already been covered up before behind the camera. I didn't really think I was going to make videos with it, but not to worry, I'm going to teach you exactly how I did this. There's nothing to worry about. So what you go, place your cup on top of your bust line while the bottom of the cup is facing towards the under bust, giving ½ inch allowance upwards, and the other end of the cup that is facing the folded part should be on top of the ½ inch allowance, ½ inch line you give in. Then you trace out the cup. Just hold it firm and trace it out. For me, I usually like my cups to be slanted a little bit. It depends on your own choice though. You can still make it straight, you can make it slanted. Now the next thing I did was to mark 1 inch downwards from my chest line, and then connected the end of that cup to that 1 inch I marked. Then I went ahead to cut out my fabric. While cutting out the cup area, please remember to leave ½ inch allowance inside the cup while cutting it. This will allow you to insert your cup very well and it will sit very well on your bust. So after that, I brought back my cup, placed it in that same area it's supposed to be, then trimmed out that 1 inch space I made earlier for it to align with my cup very well, like you see me doing. Now the next thing I did was to go ahead and mark out my darts. Then I went ahead to cut out my fabric fully. Okay, I also went ahead to cut out the back of my bustier. I just used the front as a pattern to cut out the back. The only difference here is that at the center back I came down by 1 inch because I wanted my back to come down a little, so that's just it. Then I slit it open, and of course the back doesn't have cups, so that's the only difference. Now I've gone ahead to stitch down my darts, both for the front and the back. After that, it is time to cover up your cups. This is what I did. I measured the longest part on my cup, and that gave me 7 inches. And then I go ahead to measure and cut out fabric that is big enough to cover up the cups. It will be very big enough to cover up the cups, as you can see. Now the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and make a dart on top of the fabric. I fold it into two, then from each side of the folded part I subtracted 1 inch and then connected it to the middle of this fabric, like you see me doing. From that 1 inch I connected it upwards to the middle of this fabric, then from the other end too I connected it upwards to the middle of this fabric, and I cut it open. After marking that, try to trace out those lines in a way that it forms a little curve so that it doesn't look too pointed on top of the cup. Then you cut it out. After that, you stitch up that open part, pin it up and stitch it. As this is pattern paper, I'm going to use these pins in form of the stitches I'm supposed to make on top of the main fabric. So I am assuming that I have stitched up my fabric now. Then you open it up, turn it to the right side like I'm doing. Then you go ahead and place it on top of your cup. That's the reason for the dart, to make this fabric sit properly on top of your cup. Then you use pins to pin it down before you stitch it with the machine. After that, you go ahead to insert your boning casings. In this case, I'm using a bias tape to do this. I'm really sorry guys, for some reasons I couldn't make videos while I was doing this, but here is it. I just went ahead to attach my cups to the bodice, after which I inserted my bones into the boning casings. As you can see, the bones have already been inserted. Then I went ahead to cut out the lining. I used the main fabric to cut out the lining. It was just exact, there's no difference. So before I joined my lining with my main piece, I've gone ahead to attach the back piece to the front piece side by side using 2 inches allowance. And I did the same for the lining too. Then I joined my main fabric with, after which I top stitched all the way, as you can see. Then I went ahead to close up the down part of my bustier. At this point, I had already forgotten that I was supposed to attach a tiny sleeve to this bustier. So I went ahead to cut out the sleeve for it. I just made a tiny rope. It doesn't really need a measurement, but just make a tiny rope of about, let's say, 16 inches long and probably 3 inches wide. Then I had to fold it in. I didn't really measure the folding, but then I also used this opportunity to cut out the ropes that I'm going to use for the loop, because my bustier is going to come with a loop and not a zipper. I was supposed to attach my sleeve before I covered it up with my lining, so I had to manipulate it somehow, As you can see in this video, I had to tear up that part that I was supposed to attach the sleeve in, then poked it in between that fabric and the lining. Now for the loop part, I had to fold my bustier like you see me doing, and I subtracted 3 inches from the center back because it's going to have a loop, not a zipper. So I had to remove 3 inches from the center back, and I had to cut it out. Okay, right here I'm done folding in my ropes and the loops. Okay, for the ropes I'm using for the loop, I cut it into 2 inches, and I'm going to fold it into 2 like this and place it in between my main fabric and my lining, giving them about 2 inches space. Okay, and for the main bustier to look very neat after finishing, I'll have to fold this edge in like this, fold the main fabric and the lining inside while I place the loop in between them like you see me doing, and then I pin it up first before I take it to my sewing machine. Okay, this is the finished look of my bustier. I'm done putting the loops, so I'm inserting the rope into the loops, and it's looking already beautiful. So I appreciate you guys for watching to the end of this video. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. If this video was helpful in any way, please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and please leave what you think for me there in the comment section. Thank you so much. See you in my next video.